Hi friends, I'm Jeffy G. I have a mobile rig that I take with me when I'm on the road, and everything fits into this backpack. It's pretty stuffed with things. I got my laptop computer in there, my iPad, I've got cables, I've got stands and selfie sticks. The biggest thing I carry in there is this Neve Instruments Control M32. But when it comes to microphones, there's only one microphone I'm taking these days, and it's this. It's the AT2020, which I got really cheap. This isn't a musical instrument. How do you play it? I guess it's studio gear though. The thing is, it went on sale at Amazon for $79 Canadian. I mean, that's like $52 US. And even though I don't need yet another mic, I thought, you know what, for that price, I gotta pick one of these and maybe I'll use it in my mobile rig. I've got it in a different shock mount, different than the one it came with. I already had a spit guard and I have it mounted on a short mic stand. I used to carry around a Rode NT USB Mini, a Shure SM58, and an SM57. But I'm finding now that the AT2020 does everything I need. Initially in my mobile rig, I bought this Rode NT USB mic, and it was great because it has its own audio interface and it plugs in with any USB-C cable. Really easy to use. You just plug it in there, the other end can go into your MacBook or a Windows machine or an iPad. And the sound quality of this is top notch. To avoid latency, what you do is you plug the headphones into the back of this so you're immediately hearing what you're recording back. And I have another review on this mic, which I've had for years, and it's up in the top. The jump to an XLR condenser microphone meant that I was going to need an audio interface for my mobile rig. And that's when I picked up the EVO 4. And I couldn't be happier. Both of these things are budget priced. They fight way above their class, in my opinion. The EVO 4 in particular gave me the auto gain feature, which is kind of a selling point. Is nice, but that isn't the real reason I bought it. The real reason I bought it is that the analog to digital conversion in this thing is just top notch. So I couldn't be happier with that. So in combination, the EVO and this AT2020 just give me phenomenal flexibility. When I first got the mic, I thought, oh, this is great. I'll use it for podcasts, for voiceovers, on videos. I'll use it for miking guitar amps and miking other acoustic instruments because it is a condenser mic that requires 48 volts and they're typically very sensitive. This one included. It has great dynamic range. But then I started thinking, could I use this for vocals? I mean, I have more expensive microphones. You know, I have mid-price microphones in the $400 to $600 range, and sometimes I rent high-end microphones in the $5,000 to $8,000 range. But what could this microphone do? So I tried it out and I was really impressed. Let me show you the vocal chain that I'm using in Logic with plugins and this microphone to get a good sound out of it. In Logic, you can store settings for a channel. So in my case, I have different groups of plugins that I use for different kinds of vocals. And here I have something called Jag Vocal. Now the difference is when I'm at home, I use a bunch of UAD plugins. They're more expensive and many of them rely upon using an Apollo audio interface. But when I'm remote on the road and all I have is the EVO 4, I can't really use those plugins. And some of the UAD plugins are available in their native mode, so I can use those. But I prefer this setup, which really focuses on delivered plugins in Logic, plus a few others. And one of the big differences here is this channel strip I bought. This is the Lindell 80 channel strip, which emulates a Neve 1073, I think. And it's great. I just love playing with this. I'm surprised at how good this sounds. And this is what makes the AT2020 sound like a much more expensive mic. There are presets, there are settings you can play around with, but if you turn this off and on to hear the difference in your recording, you'll say, hey, this is well worth the $29 or $39. Everything else on there is pretty standard. The pitch correction I'm using is just the delivered Logic pitch correction. I may or may not use that, turn it off and on. The EQ, I may need that, I may not. That's why it's turned off. The channel strip has its own compression built in, and that may do the trick, but what I find sometimes is that I need some secondary compression, so I just zip over to the vintage opto mode of the Logic compressor. Noise gate, tube EQ, sometimes I prefer the sound of that tube EQ. I have level meters on there to make sure that my vocal recordings are coming in at around -6 to -10 dB. That gives me headroom to do post-production on the vocals. The other channel strip plugin I sometimes use, this SSL emulation, which is from BrainWorx. It really depends on the type of music you're recording. I like the Neve sound because it's warm and it's classic. Great for old rock and roll or any music where you want that smooth preamp sound and color that you get from a Neve. The solid state is one of the more accurate channel strips, but again, using this, turning it off and on, can take an inexpensive mic like the AT2020 and make it sound like $1 million. If everything down here on the desk does fit in my backpack, I use these headphones, the ubiquitous Sony 7506s, which I've owned forever. I use my MacBook Pro. I've got this great Native Instruments Control M32, and sometimes I take my Machine Micro with me too. And before the Machine Micro, I had this Akai MPD 218, and I still use that. It works great with an iPad. It's a very simple pad controller, and I have fairly inexpensive speakers. They usually don't go with me in the backpack. They usually sit here at my mobile location. So don't get fooled by the big screen. Some of that stuff doesn't go with me. It's just inexpensive stuff that I leave set up here. Sitting in the back there is a nest of cables that are plugged into my computer via USB-C, and that's just a neat little hub from Anker. The reason I bought it was it had multiple USB-C ports on it. With the exception of the MacBook Pro, which is an M1 Max, everything else here is really budget oriented. These headphones are the best deal out there. If you don't have Sony 7506s, go get yourself a pair. You won't be disappointed. The Native Instruments Control M32, I bought used, so I got a great deal on that. It's DAW controls, works with the complete control and machine software. And similarly, I bought the Machine Micro used too. I got a really good deal on that. So nothing here is new. Everything is sort of discount budget oriented, from the microphone, the audio interface, everything that I use. Very low cost. It would make a great main studio setup. Even these monitors are the Presonus Iris 3.5s. They sound great. Of course, there's not as much bass response, but for the price, they're amazing. I fit a lot of stuff into my mobile rig. Not everything that you see there fits into this backpack, but most of it does. The only things that I leave at certain locations, in this case, that big screen display, 32-inch 4K monitor, lives here, but almost everything else fits in my backpack, and I take it with me on the road. And at the heart of that, the only microphone that I'm using is the AT2020. As I'm working on this video, I'm thinking, this is actually a really good bedroom setup. Everything you see is included for roughly $600, except for the MacBook Pro and the 4K large monitor. Everything else can be purchased either new or used at a budget price, and you're going to get excellent quality out of these things. I can't emphasize this enough that I have a high-end studio at home with all Apollo gear and UAD plugins and expensive microphones and controllers, and I'm saying the end product that I develop here is very difficult to differentiate. And isn't that what really counts in the end, is what does your music sound like? What's the quality in the end? In fact, I can tell you that the simplicity of this configuration and the low cost is a bit liberating. You can focus more on the music and less on the gear. Hey, I'm not sponsored by any of these vendors. This is just gear that I've bought, that I own, that I think is pretty good. And my reason for sharing it with you is so that you get a sense of what available budget level gear is available for beginners and people just starting out in music production. If you find this helpful, click on the like button, consider subscribing to the channel. There's a lot more there that's going to help you. Click on the notification bell if you want to find out when I'm releasing new videos. Somebody might ask, hey, what's that arm for there? And that's, I use that arm for my iPhone when I need overhead shots. I know someone's going to ask in the video, so I thought, I might as well explain it. And thanks for watching.